So welcome to episode 2 of Llama Drives. Previously these were Llama Live, but they're not really live. We just filmed them live and somebody picked out that we're driving. So, Ray, welcome to your first episode of this.
Feels like carpool karaoke without the singing.
No tunes. So Ray and I have been out today filming some drone shots. Ray, tell us what we were looking at today.
Yeah, trying to act a track. So it's something that on DJI's drones, which is the most popular drone maker out there, the ability to track you primarily in a sports setting. So you basically, it does this image recognition, you tap the person or the cyclist, wherever you want to track, and then in theory you can track yourself or another person. And there's been some limitations in 2017 around that, but they made some changes late last year to allow you to go a lot longer distances than in the past. It used to be limited to 100 meters, which was entirely useless for a cyclist unless you only rode 100 meters at a time. And so we were just trying it out here in the middle of nowhere, and it's been warm.
We were at the Eagle on the Hill mountain bike park on road bikes. We were going to use this road here, which is the descent off Eagle on the Hill. If you know Adelaide, you know this descent is beautiful. It's nice and fast. But we thought there might have been a few cars around and a few obstacles. So we were totally off the beaten path. Very off the beaten path, actually. We were down 1 kilometre down a steep, rocky incline. It was a bit of an adventure. What did we average riding back up for the kilometre back up? It was.
I was at 370 watts all the way back up on a road bike on gravelly, rocky garbage, basically.
So I'm hoping the footage came out well. If it did, it's going to be a Llama Rides, Roadies Tackle the Gravel, or something like that episode. we got there. We did happen to see a koala though. Australians can't pick koalas. We're obviously in koala country all the time, and we never, ever see them. Tourists always find the koalas. The first koala Ray found was a possum. It was in disguise. We saw it from the back, so they're the same colour, same fur. And then we found a real koala.
Yeah. We were down, we were trying to seek refuge from the heat because the batteries and everything kept on overheating. That's been like the theme of the last 2 days. It's just gear overheats and literally shuts off. And so we had to go under a tree, and we're standing there and looked around, and boom, koala.
Koala. It was, he was not too happy to see us, and he wondered what we were doing going into the shade all the time. Where we were set up, it was blisteringly hot, but it's where we needed to be with all the gear. So we got all the shots done, so hopefully we'll have that up in a couple of days, Ray?
Yep, I think so. Hopefully it's a lot of video cuts, a lot of edits, a lot of cameras. We had, 3 or 4 cameras running?
Yeah. I had the GoPro front and back on the bike, and we had the phone recording the screen, and we had obviously the drone itself.
At least 2 or 3 microphone audio tracks. It's they're tough videos to put together. I think, if you look at drone videos on YouTube, the best ones are always, they look seamless, but there's so much on there. You're trying to record the screen, you're trying to record what the camera the drone is seeing, your own camera on you. It's a lot of stuff to sync up. And then you gotta hope nothing goes wrong. Even for us, we had 2 or 3 runs where we had one fly into a tree. So that was less than ideal. Another one where it simply didn't even follow you at all. And that's unfortunately the reality of doing these sort of drone videos. They're kind of a pain in the butt.
Heaps of fun though. If we're allowed to get out on the bike and make content, I'm happy with that. But
yep.
Our water bottle's absolutely burning hot. So we're looking for a Slurpee machine or a 7-Eleven or something up here soon. We'll see what we can find. But it is super hot. And I mean, the riders in the Tour Down Under as well. We saw the heat vests yesterday. We spoke about they would be used a lot today, even after the stage. I'm sure they'd be in the esky, they'd be throwing them on.
I saw yesterday jumped into the bay or the river, or not river, but whatever the oceany sort of thing is, that area of the bay of some sort. They all went down to a bunch of shots in the press about that, and kind of an unusual shot to find. Yeah,
in their full kit as well.
Yeah, just straight finish line right to the water.
It's that hot. It's if you've ever had the feeling on the bike where you do want to ride to the ocean and jump in, they got to do it.
Yep.
I think they deserved it as well. That was still 3-4 hours of them racing in the heat. It was brutal.
They can stay in the ocean all they want.
Yep. So tomorrow's about the same, 35 degrees, I think, which is the Wollonga stage. Ray, you've got maybe a bit of backstage.
Yeah, the current plan, and these things always change at the last second. They told me that up front. They're like, you can be there ready to go, and then boom, last second change. Something's popped up, and now you're not there. But so the current plan is to be in the team FDJ car, so the French team's car, and that's the hope. And so that'd be an awesome stage for that, an epic stage for that. But again, I'm not. If things change, that's totally legit, totally understandable. They have a lot of stuff to balance. So.
Fingers crossed. We would love to see your take on all the tech in the car and how they operate. Ray's walkthrough yesterday of the start line was fantastic. I did a walkthrough as well, but I watched Ray's, and even I caught things that I didn't see when I was there myself. So you can even be watching YouTube, you can be more informed than being there in person.
Yeah, there's so much stuff. I watched the back a portion of it last night, and it was just like, oh, I could have talked about this way more. Like I could spend a half an hour of just walking through the entire start area. There's so much nuance there that you almost don't know unless you've been around a lot of the pro cycling races to know like what they're doing has a reason. It's a very choreographed dance. It's a cool dance. Like it's something that you see and you're like, wow, this whole thing is so precision. And then at that moment they start, it goes. It's really, really impressive.
It was clockwork, even for the laid back, relaxed area of where we were down in the beach. And we talked the other day about how relaxed this whole race is, but about 5 minutes before the start, bang, everyone cleared out, everyone moved away, got into position, everyone had a job to do and did it. It's very, very professional, even though it's very relaxed. It's super awesome to see and be a part of.
Yeah, everyone has rules. They all, like, even for media and stuff, there's rules on exactly what time you have to be out of what zones and where you can be, and the timing is all laid out. Even like when you can and can't film, like what times this can be done. It's very like I said, clockwork, but it has to be to make this all work, to move this entire scene, and this is nothing in terms of logistics compared to the Grand Tours, which is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, those road closures I think are very strict on time frames.
Oh, incredibly.
And we, as a cyclist, we know that it isn't somewhat a little inconvenient for people to have to drive another way around to get home or something like that. But look, it's only once a year over here, I guess. And but speaking of the heat, the Bupa ride was cancelled today. Now that's a big ride, up to 5,000 participants. It's a big Grand Fondo here. It's a big draw card. Now, what we've had in Australia this year, we've had the L'Etape Le Tour. That was shortened because of the rain. Tour of Bright was cancelled because of the rain. We had the Grand Fondo at the Australian National Championships last week cancelled because of the heat. And we've had this one cancelled because of the heat. There's a theme happening here. I think it's Australia.
I think so. Maybe I'm not a local, but I would suggest maybe a different time of year for these events. Just a thought.
Yeah, well, technically our road season, the racing road season, is in winter because we follow the European road season. I don't know why, but they're now putting more and more events on during summer because we all want to ride during summer, of course. So what happens is exactly that. There's more and more catastrophic weather events.
I feel like running has this figured out. Like you won't find any running events in the summer. Like you won't find any running marathons, for example, in true summer. You'll find fun 5Ks early in the morning and stuff like that, and 10Ks and triathlons because you start in the water, so it's clear. But you're never going to find like a hot summer marathon because...
look at the temperature right here. Outside temperature, 43 degrees Celsius.
So that's 109, I think, 110 degrees Fahrenheit for those Americans. That's... balls hot.
That is...
It's the only way to put that. It's so hot.
I went out this morning at 8 o'clock and did Norton Summit and come back down. It's 30 kilometres. I was heat headache on the way home. I had 2 bottles of water, thermal bottles as well to keep things cool. Still not... I was like, no, I'm going to pull the pin here. And riders were still coming out the other way. That was phenomenal. Like, you've got to be super fit to be operating in things like this. So back onto running. Now they don't hold events in the heat, obviously, or
not generally. I mean,
they try not to.
Yeah, I mean, most of the marathons are in the fall. Usually, it's the best time. So not winter, but like fall is usually when you'll see the marathon season happen. Certainly, track and field is a bit more summery, but that's also shorter distances where heat isn't as impactful as it is a long distance or endurance type stuff. And then you'll see like some of the ultra races tend to happen late summer. So still, you want a little bit of heat there, but usually a little bit cooler temps.
Not the extreme stuff. Now, speaking of running, on the running theme, running with power. What are your thoughts? You've done quite a bit on the technology. I've just gone and got myself a watch a few months back to be across the tech, and I've taken up a little bit of running. Because there's a lot of crossover now with cycling and Zwift, and the fitness market sort of expanding and crossing over quite a lot. Running with power. Personally, I've ridden with power for years and years to understand it. I think, as much as I'd like to understand it. And running with power, I don't understand it.
I would say a lot of people don't. And to be fair, there isn't any definition there. I mean, that's actually, I think, the core of the problem is that there are different ways to define it. Is power what your body is putting out? Is it what it's transferring to the ground? Is it mechanical power? Like there's a lot of ways you can define it, whereas cycling is a little more clear cut. It's pretty straightforward. And so that's, I think, the first problem. The second is capturing that is really, really tricky. So there's kind of a couple different solutions out in the market today. Stride is one of them, one of the more popular ones out there. And they've got these little, now it's a foot pod that you put on one of your shoes to capture power from that, and it sends it up. And it's similar to Stages, right? You've got the same left-only problem before you talk Stages LR, but just left-only. And that is a capture only one side. You know, generally not a huge deal, but as technology advances, you want dual-sided. So that's where you've got Run Scribe, and they've got the newest one, the Run Scribe Plus. And that one there goes ahead and basically captures both left and right, and does a bunch of other running efficiency type metrics as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just power, and then transmits power up as also. Now the problem with both that and Stride is it's purely mathematical accelerometer goodness. Like it's black box stuff basically, and some of them are a bit open on how they get those numbers, but it's just math. They're looking at changes in accelerometer or acceleration and foot strike and all that kind of stuff to figure out, and ground contact time and vertical oscillation to figure out what your power is. But when you get things like wind, that's not accounted for. So you could be running straight into a headwind.
Which on a bike makes your power go through the roof.
Yep, and on running, it's just as hurtful. It hurts just as much. Some people try to like discount it, but if you've ever run like I ran a marathon straight into a headwind for 26 miles. It was a point-to-point marathon along the ocean in France for 26 miles. That was brutal. And so that does make a big difference. And if your power meter doesn't account for that, that's a challenge. It also doesn't account for certain types of terrain like sand. If you happen to have a segment on a beach, which isn't uncommon in triathlon, to be jumping down onto the beach for a little bit for the end of a run. Like one of my first triathlons, the Big Kahuna Tri in California was exactly that. You ran along the beach for a portion of it. Same with Alcatraz Triathlon, very, very famous triathlon. So again, it's somewhat rare, but if you go look at trail running, same problem. So Garmin attempted to, with their entrant, Running Power, attempted to address some of those things on the wind side. So they account for wind using weather stations.
Ooh, yeah.
But even that's tricky, right? So I mean, right now we've got this big building next to us. I'm sure there's some out the back of the
we
camera.
were in a valley before with a big wind ripping down there, but on top there was no wind at all. It's
right.
Yeah.
It changes a lot, and directional changes and stuff. So I'm not sure if that's actually better or worse than no wind. At least with no wind, you know that it's not accounted for. With this, it could be accounted for the wrong way. So it's, I don't know. I think running with power has its place in life. It will be important. I don't think today the technology is there.
Right.
The one that's really interesting to me is a company called Axiom, I think or Arion, sorry, A-R-I-O-N. They are footbeds. I've actually got them in my shoes right now. They have little sensors that pop up the side. They have GPS pods in them and everything.
Wow.
And in the bottom they have half a dozen or a dozen pressure sensors, and they can detect pressure pushing off, so they can detect that wind, they can detect all that kind of stuff. So that's getting closer.
Yeah.
But even then, like people would say, well, it doesn't detect shear forces, so that kind of left and right motion.
Better than not, but yeah, okay, I see where they're going. I've seen an article on Usain Bolt about his acceleration and pushing forward across the ground. So I guess they're looking at more of, that's going to be fascinating. Now tell me, price-wise, bike power meters, when they first came out, astronomical prices, $3,000, $4,000. There's still some up there in that price point. Running with power, what are we looking at price-wise to get into that? Or let's just call it running with advanced metrics, I guess you call it. What are we looking at for these devices?
So at the cheap end of price, which shouldn't be confused with quality, by the way. I would say a lot of these are actually pretty equal in quality. It's just different pros and cons, but is actually Garmin's own solution. So you can get either their HRM Tri or HRM Run heart rate straps, do running power with their watches, their higher-end kind of multi-sport and running watches. And that's something you can get for $70 or so for a heart rate strap. A lot of people already have them.
Only $70, not $700.
Nope, only $70. Yep. And the same with their RD pod, which is this tiny little yellow pod that you can clip on the back of your running shorts. Exact same thing. Again, like $70 or so. So that's the starting point. Yeah. Then you go up a step. Stride is $199 right now. So a foot pod solution. The one benefit that people talk a lot about Stride is that you can use it as a running foot pod for really stable pace. So some folks, depending on your terrain, like trail runners or whatnot, have problems with stable pace, keeping that pace the same with GPS because it bounces all over the place.
I'm looking at the trees here. I've run around Lake Wendouree and Ballarat. There's we run through the botanical gardens, and there's some big old trees, and my pace goes through the roof or through the floor. It depends on, so that stops all that, smooths that out.
So their pace technology is really, really, really good, and so a lot of people actually buy it just for the foot pod.
Right.
To me, that's a really damn expensive foot pod. There's foot pods that do the same thing for $30. So just my 2 cents. And then the next level above that is Run Scribe Plus, their dual left and right solution, which is I think $249 right now. So that kind of covers it all. And Run Scribe has a ton more on the analytics side for everything from foot strike and looking at pronation, and a lot of data there that you can potentially take advantage of it. Some of it just also can be like data overwhelmingness though too.
Yeah, okay, but that's a really, I mean, now knowing the price point, I can understand why it's such a hot market, because people would happily drop $100, maybe $200 on advanced metrics for running, but I mean, dropping $700 to $1,000 on a power meter, it can be a bit of a prohibitor.
Yep.
I mean, two different markets, obviously running and cycling, but
Sure.
I mean, everyone's looking at data and they want to see more, they want to improve and ways to improve. That's very interesting. So Ray, as a beginner runner myself, I'm running around a 5-minute pace or so around the lake.
Yep.
What would be the best foot pod or running device for me to geek out on data for now? Where would I start?
It's tough. I mean, I think, to be totally honest, if you're just looking to improve pace and improve that kind of stuff, improve all that,
I've got the 935.
you've got to watch. I would focus on a structured training program more than anything else. I would focus
Right.
on picking up something that's intervals and stuff like that. Before you get into geeks, I think, like for me, I started off running with a simple, cheap stopwatch, no GPS watch, anything like that, and that's how I got my biggest gains, with just intervals, just going out and having some structure. It doesn't have to be fancy. There's tons of free training programs online.
Yeah.
One of the best one that I started with years ago. It's this horrible looking website, but Hal Higdon's running plans are totally free. You can just go on there, download them for like different event types, advanced, immediate, all that kind of stuff. Awesome for. I went from a 4:20 marathon to a 3:20 marathon in 1 year. And then I dropped down even lower than that after that, just
Wow,
based
yeah.
on following simple interval guidance, like
Right.
not hard. That said, for tech, I would say just start off real cheap. I would honestly just get one of the Garmin options. So get like $70, pick up either the heart rate strap that has the advanced metrics in it, or the RD pod. I really like the RD pod because I don't really like wearing a chest strap if I can avoid it, and just going with it and giving it a whirl and seeing what the data comes out of that, and see if you find it useful, or if after like a week or two, you're like, I'm not really doing anything with this, and
Sure.
you didn't waste as much money. You still got, at least with the heart rate strap, you still have a functional heart rate strap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, we'll leave it there. We're almost back to our accommodation. I can't wait to see the drone footage for today. And thanks for coming along to the very first DC Rainmaker and GP Llama Drives.
there we go. Awesome time. Thanks
Cheers.
for all the help as well. I really appreciate it. Went out there, and Shane went up and down this little hill that on the drone will look like perfectly flat because it was from above and stuff. I promise you, it was not flat, and it was miserable to ride up on road bikes with road bike tires and everything. So he was a trooper out there. We stayed in the sun minus the time with the koala bear. So it was, he was a good sport.
It's all a bit of fun. And if I had fallen off, it would have made some really, really good footage.
Yep.
But we got the drone crashing into the tree.
We did get that. That should be epic. We even found it fished out of the bog swamp thing there.
It wasn't pretty. It's where the koala lived, and it wasn't a nice place.
No, it wasn't.
Anyway, look forward to that video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all soon.